I became popular in StarCraft Chapter 211 to 220. Thank you all for liking and following. Please support me. I apologize for any mistakes in the translation. You can donate to Kasi Corn Bank 025 352 0310. Then let's get started. Chapter 211 is missing. Huh? This is really rare. Few people know Chu Yao's phone number. She took out her mobile phone from her pocket and saw the caller's name, Li Lufeng. The president of the Kingshu Company's branch in Lingyuan and He Qiasi's mother. If it was something ordinary, it would be He Qiasi who contacted Chu Yao. Why did the president take the initiative to call her today? Chu Yao pressed the answer button. Hey, Aunt Li, what's up? As He Qiasi's friend, they had met a few times before, and they had a good relationship. Xiao Yet? Are you busy right now? There's something urgent here. About Xiao Shi. What urgent matter could she not tell herself? From Li Lufeng's eager voice, Chu Yao smelled something was wrong. I'm not busy, just talk directly if you have something to do. What's wrong with Qiasi? Do you have any other problems? No. It's okay if that's the case. Li Lufeng's voice paused for a few seconds. Xiao Shi disappeared. Disappeared. Chu Yao frowned. How could such a big company go astray? Don't worry, since when did she disappear? Where did she go before? 2 days ago. It's inconvenient to talk on the phone. Why don't you come to me directly? Okay, I'll go now. I'm here. Chu Yao replied and hung up. Another business. Are you busy? Su Huahua finished taking pictures of Yao Jing and returned to sit in front of his 6-screen TV. Something happened. I'll contact you again if necessary. The development of Mao Yi Company to this day was all thanks to He Qiasi's great help. As a friend, you should examine the situation emotionally and rationally. The plan to find the demon crystal was put on hold, so let Xiao Hua rest for now. Chu Yao bid farewell to everyone at the base, got on her trusty motorcycle, and drove towards Xindu. In the wasteland, the wind and sand still remained. At one corner of the high sand wall, on both sides of a giant gate several meters high, were lined up with iron-domed soldiers wearing helmets and carrying rifles. There were 4 or 5 giant gates, which were used for the passage of people and vehicles between the wasteland and the city. The person in charge of the inspection checked Chu Yao's pass, and after confirming the other party, he respectfully saluted and let her in. After walking through the darkness, she stepped into this familiar city again. The familiar street scene, tall buildings, flying tracks. But there were many differences. Everything in Xindu seemed to be covered in a layer of grey, and this once new and tidy city had also become the color of a decrepit wasteland. The electronic waste piled up on the side of the road had not been cleaned up, the green plants were broken in patches and yellow, and there was a lot of sand and gravel on the road. Although the cleaning car was still working, the dust seemed not easy to clean. The sand wall could block the wind and sand and foreign enemies, but it could not block the influence of the environment. There were more license plates for various shops on both sides of the street, and they were all kinds of small businesses that had made a comeback. After many medium-sized companies went bankrupt, their vacant areas were divided up and demolished, and the former high-rise buildings became the soil for these small businesses. Looking at the messy license plates and tangled wires in the air, Chu Yao seemed to be in a dark street that used to be. The impact of pests, diseases, and wars was all over the place. The streets and alleys were full of dirty homeless people. Some were sleeping quietly on the corners, some were rummaging through the garbage, and some were gathered in small groups like gangsters, looking at the passers-by with ruthless eyes. They were the victims of thousands of unemployment. Not everyone dared to start over. The people who could support themselves the best with their abilities and capital were just ordinary people without backgrounds, and the epidemic had changed everything about them. In addition to these vagabonds, another group of people began to increase in number, which were the prosthetic limbs that had been modified. These people were crippled by the insect plague and relied on modified technology to survive. Walking on the street, these prosthetic limbs could be seen everywhere, and some were so modified that it was almost impossible to tell whether they were human or not. Chu Yao rode her motorcycle through the noisy crowd and headed towards the Kingshu Company. She didn't want to go to Princess yet. There was no one there now. Most of us were in the base. The more central you go, the better the environment will be. The bigger the company, especially the large interstellar company like Kingshu, the less affected it will be. Some companies even made a lot of money. The emergence of the prosthetic limb army was inseparable from Hickson's strategy of offering body modification technology at a low price. The building with the heart logo gradually appeared. Chu Yao parked her car on the ground floor, and the staff led the way to Li Lufeng's office. This strong woman in her late 50s was busy on the phone. When she saw Chu Yao, she waved for her to sit down first, and the secretary poured Chu Yao tea. Li Lufeng didn't let Chu Yao wait too long and came back after hanging up the phone. Don't bother greeting Aunt Li, you know the relationship between Xiaoxi and me. Let's get to the point. Li Lufeng nodded and sat on the sofa beside Chu Yao. Her expression was rather calm, but there was worry in her eyes. She disappeared 2 days ago, let's talk about it. It was clear that it was 2 nights ago. Yesterday, I didn't take it seriously. I thought she was going crazy again. I only found out about her after hearing the news that the person had disappeared. 2 days ago, Chu Yao repeated. Where did Xiaoxi go before she disappeared? Isn't there anyone around? It seems that she was in the martial arts gym all day. That is what you cooperated with. Then, I attended the junior party at night and disappeared after the party. Li Lufeng sighed. I tried everything I could, and almost mobilized the entire company, but I still couldn't find her. Furthermore, it seems that there have been many similar disappearances in Xinda recently, and I'm very worried about her. Has there been a lot of disappearances in Xinda recently? Chu Yao received an important message. Why did she suddenly disappear? I remember that she usually has 2 bodyguards with her. Have you asked them? The news of her disappearance came from these 2 people. The 2 are close friends in the company. They can make rules. Suspicious. Chu Yao thought silently. When something is wrong, there must be a demon. The suspicions of the 2 could not be ruled out, at least not until she asked her personally. Xiao Ye, I know that your company has some special words in the Xinda language, so. Chu Yao nodded. She knew that Li Lufeng was referring to Cat's Eye. With the growth of the Maoan organization, the existence of the secret service under the Mao Yi company was no longer a secret. At least, not to the leaders of some large companies. The Mao Yi company had focused on dormancy and rooting for many years. Under the right time and place, the Mao Yi company had gone through a stage where it still needed to use force to seize territory with gangsters. The cat's tail that controlled dozens of industries and markets related to people's lifeline could be called the local snake of the spiritual source. Although it could not be compared to giants like Steel Dome and Yelai, it was on par with other companies. Don't worry, Aunt Li. Our people have already started to make their move. If I receive any news about Xiaoxi, I will inform you as soon as possible. That's great. It's really troublesome for you. I owe you a favor. It's fine. Xiaoxi and I are friends. However, can you tell me the deal before Xiaoxi disappears? It will be very helpful for the investigation. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 212 Martial Arts. Leave home at 9 in the morning, then go to Chu's Martial Arts Hall with the bodyguards, then stay in the Martial Arts Hall until 6 in the evening, drive to the Zinki Hotel, and disappear after the show ends at 8 in the evening. Chu Yao got the information about He Xiaoxi's whereabouts from Aunt Li, and with her consent, she went to another house not far from her workplace. He Xiaoxi's 2 bodyguards were temporarily detained here by Li Lufeng. Although Xiaoxi's disappearance may not have been caused by the 2 of them, they would have to pay for their dereliction of duty. Chu Yao closed the door and the 2 bodyguards looked at her restlessly. The 2 Chu Yao knew each other and were often seen beside He Xiaoxi. As the 2 were about to speak, Chu Yao's eyes shone with a purple light. And the 2 of them stopped there with blank faces. Where were you 2 when Qiasi came to the banquet? Her words seemed to echo in their hearts with a terrifying magical power. We are just like the other bodyguards, guarding the hall. One of them said blankly. After the show ended at 8 p.m., we welcomed that woman back. She said she wanted to go to the bathroom, so we went ahead. Let her wait outside. As a result, after 10 minutes, she didn't come back, so the 2 of us rushed in. We searched the entire hotel but didn't find that woman, and her phone was off. Another person added. Went to the bathroom and disappeared? Could there be something wrong with this hotel? No, now is not the time to speculate. There are very few clues. She needs more evidence. Who did Qiasi meet today? Chu Yao continued to ask. Mr. Lin from the Martial Arts Hall and several students, and more than 10 people who came to the banquet, they are all people with backgrounds. As for Xiaoli and I don't know them all. Is there anything wrong? No, about her recently, is it possible to offend her? Who? No, everything is normal as usual. The guests at the banquet are all Miss He's close friends. She wanted to contact Miss Chu to come to the banquet, but she didn't get contacted. Xiaoli added from the side. I should have been in Yuxuanzong's secret territory back then. Chu Yao nodded and moved his fingers slightly, a spell was released. The 2 of them shook their bodies as if they had just woken up from a dream. Their eyes showed confusion. It was obvious that they didn't know what was going on right now. Hey, Mr. Chu. You're here too. Do you have any news about Miss He? Xiaoli asked worriedly. Not yet, but don't worry. I'll find her. The two of you should think carefully and wait for her to come back. How can she deduct her salary? Chu Yao raised his eyebrows and walked out of the room to talk with Li Lufeng. After saying goodbye, left the Qingshu Company building. Under the secret method, Chu Yao could be sure that these two were not lying. But she didn't go directly to the hotel, but drove towards the martial arts hall first. It was still early, and a fiery red motorcycle was speeding along the inner city streets. After about 10 minutes, a large stadium-like arena appeared. Not far from Princess Yet, behind the Gons Association and the characters, the Chu's Martial Arts Hall was particularly eye-catching on the several-meter-wide plaque. After the epidemic, Steel Dome had separated from the Alliance and became an all-federation. The Alliance had also lost the right to intervene in many matters in Ling Yuan Star, but the martial arts gym was still able to manage stumblingly thanks to Chu Yao and He Qiasi's cooperation. There was no such thing as official endorsement, and it was difficult to obtain the support of the traditional Tianren martial arts system, but at least there was some profit coming in, and it was not a situation where it could not end. Chu Yao parked her motorcycle outside, opened the door, and walked in. The cool air from the air conditioner in the room reduced the heat from her body. In front of her eyes was a spacious square hall with wood-patterned tiles. Next to the high platform, not far away, dozens of children were waving their little arms and legs to practice boxing. The sound reverberated. As soon as Chu Yao entered, she saw a familiar figure coming from the other side of the hall. She was Lin Wu, and she was in charge of all the big and small affairs of the martial arts school. Lin Wu was dressed in a neat ceremonial robe. Her ponytail hung down behind her, and her exposed neck looked delicate and straight. As she stepped forward, the high heels on the solace of her feet tapped the ground. Sister Chu, you're here because of Sister He's business. Lin Wu smiled at Chu Yao calmly and calmly. Years of experience had hidden her previous impetus in the gentleness from her mouth, and she could no longer see the shadow of the little girl she used to be. Chu Yao nodded. Have the people of Qingshu come here? I've been here many times, and this morning, the Gangshan Law Enforcement Bureau also came, but they only asked a few words and left. Xiao Shi, there's nothing unusual about her, right? Chu Yao was chatting, spreading her consciousness around the place, and found nothing special that needed attention. She had expected this as well, but Chu Yao didn't want to give any clues. No, she's still the same, practicing boxing and teasing the kids. With a smile in her eyes, Lin Wu looked at the children practicing boxing not far away. We had dinner together at noon, I just didn't think something like this would happen. Chu Yao almost forgot that He Qiasi also knew martial arts. She had even reached the 7th level of the dungeon. 8th level martial arts could be considered a master among dragons and phoenixes. It was impossible for He Qiasi to take out the 7th level without strong strength. At least for ordinary people. Okay. I understand. Thank you Xiao Wu. It's fine, Sister Chu. I'll try my best to help. I'm going out to play secretly. I hope so. Chu Yao smiled, turned around and was about to leave when she saw a man outside the door. Chu Yao glanced over and saw that the smile on the corner of Lin Wu's mouth seemed to widen a little, and her eyes were shining. She knew in her heart. Hey, talk slowly. I'll go first. Okay, if I have any news, I'll contact you through Fidian. The man nodded at Chu Yao. And the two of them briefly greeted Chu Yao. She recognized this person, but she couldn't remember his name for a moment. He was a coach in a martial arts gym, and was once an employee of the Mao Yi Security Company. Through the window, she saw Lin Wu chatting passionately with the man. Seeing Xiao Wu's happy face, Chu Yao smiled with satisfaction. The little girl who was once confused and at a loss finally found her own life. She hadn't told Lin Wu about the base yet, and now it seemed that there was no need to tell. Chu Yao withdrew her gaze and rode her beloved motorcycle again. Then, there was only one target left. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 213 Measuring Instrument. On the way, Chu Yao was rushing to the Zinki Hotel. Xiao Huo sent Mao in the investigation information. Sister Xiao, there have been many disappearances in the new city recently. All over the city, the victims are men and women. They are all different in age, but the only thing they have in common is that most of the disappearances happen at night. The list of victims Mao received and the documents on the progress of the case were attached. Chu Yao had two purposes at once. She looked at the road with her spiritual sense, and looked at the screen. 13 incidents occurred within a month, and the methods were exactly the same, and they all disappeared somewhere as if they were clever. The Law Enforcement Bureau did not seem to care much about this kind of incident. Perhaps, similar cases caught their eye. The number of missing persons every month was not as high as the number of deaths under the mouths of the Cirques. They could not be counted too much. Chu Yao had not finished reading the documents, and had arrived at the door of the Zinki Hotel. The hotel was temporarily closed under the pressure of the Qingshu, and Chu Yao saw people in Qingshu uniforms patrolling around. Chu Yao greeted Li Lufeng and was allowed to go. As soon as he opened the door and entered, he felt that something was wrong. The powerful spiritual sense of the Jindan kingdom swept through the interior and exterior of the hotel. She found traces of remnant mana. A monk had been here. Chu Yao narrowed her eyes. If it was a case involving psychers, no one would be able to intervene. A monk was blocking the way. Was it a coincidence? Where did this monk come from? The first thing she thought of was the mysterious alliance of the Blood Man. After solving Lu Yun and Wawa's problems, she had never dealt with this organization again. Chu Yao carefully searched inside and outside the hotel again, but Mana was still in the hotel and suddenly stopped, making it impossible to follow up. There was no need to check the inspection here anymore. If it was really a monk's business, the spying it would be useless. Even a small monk at the first level of Qi refining had many ways to avoid the monitor's scrutiny. As expected, what she thought of, the people from Qingshu Company also thought of. They had watched the video of Kiasi's disappearance a long time ago and found nothing. Now, the only clue was the inexplicable fluctuation of mana. Is there any way to expand the scope of the search? A light flashed in Chu Yao's mind, and someone came to mind. She took out her phone and started searching in her address book. Master Shen, can you lend me your spiritual power measuring device? Shen. Yu didn't come by himself, but Deputy Su Xingxin brought the measuring device. Not only did she bring the equipment, she also brought a group of people, a special team that searched for the princess who had stayed overnight in Tianhai City. Chu Yao was surprised that these people weren't dressed as neatly as before, and many of them were wearing yellow and blue uniforms, delivery staff uniforms. Even Su Xingxin had a yellow hard hat on his head. As for the reason, there is a long story in there. Steel Dome Company took over Ling Yuan Star and Yelai Company, and many of Celestial's contact points were naturally allied. Being liquidated, it was a coincidence that Su Xingxin and the others would survive, but this group of former Union officials also lost their jobs and sources of income. In order to survive, they started delivering food. Draw a search area. Let's agree on a price first, 5,000 per 100 meters, no bargaining. Su Xingxin held a small notebook and bargained with Chu Yao while holding his glasses. Shen Yu and I are allies, do we still need money? Chu Yao did not want money. I really do not want to mention him. Su Xingxin gritted his teeth when he said this. Shen Yu. It's all Shen Yu's fault. Oh my god. I should not have followed Shen Yu to the Qinghai Ling Yuan wilderness. If I had not come to the spirit source, I would not have made it in time for the war between Steel Dome and Yelai, and I would not have fallen to where I am now. Delivering food to this desolate place. The more Su Xingxin thought about it, the angrier she became. Her eyes seemed to want to eat people. Chu Yao wanted to laugh a little. Finally, there were people who hated Shen Yu together. Alright, 5,000 is 5,000. Let's search around the hotel within a radius of 500 meters. Fortunately, although these people were in charge of delivering food, they still did not forget their skills and started searching under Su Xingxin's command. This was something that the people of Qingshu Company naturally saw, but they saw that it was someone brought by the cat-tailed chairman, so they did not ask much. While these people were searching, Chu Yao stood at the door of the hotel and talked to Su Xingxin. Isn't Shen Yu with you now? No, this guy has been mysterious all day. I don't know what he is doing. Su Xingxin sighed. Oh, some things can't be blamed on this guy. At least we got a job because of him. It's too difficult. There are enemies and wars. I really want to go home. Your home is on the celestial star in the dragon realm. Right? 10 times better than Ling Yuan, no, 100 times better. When Su Xingxin mentioned his home, his eyes seemed to sparkle. Touch screens and projection networks are widespread, automated services all around, flying wing hanging gardens, talking ice cream. Hi, talking ice cream, isn't it a bit strange? Is this really edible? Su Xingxin looked a little nervous when he spoke. He didn't know if he missed his hometown too much or was stimulated by the insect plague. At night, if you look at the sky compared to the moon, you will see colorful meteorites, very beautiful. It is a procession of stars between planets. The moon. How long has it been since I saw the moon? Ling Yuan has no moon. In Su Xingxin's rambling tone, Chu Yao's mind recalled Fengjai Yuan's past. This damn Iron Dome Company, you can fight as long as you talk, why don't you continue to participate in Star Trek? Kill or bury it, leave a mess, fix Star Trek as soon as possible so that I can go home early, even if it's a ticket. Being expensive always makes a difference. Su Xingxin's eyes darkened greatly as she spoke. The chaos affected many people's lives. Chu Yao patted her on the shoulder, it will be better. Will it be better? Chu Yao didn't know either, but she believed that it was man-made. Not good. Destroy Harbin's world so soon. Why didn't the nuclear bomb hit my head? Chu Yao smiled helplessly. She looked at Su Xingxin's sad expression and suddenly thought of something. How much food to deliver? How much can you earn in a month? $4,000 at the most. It's not declining now. There aren't many orders. So I have to do other part-time jobs. Do you want to take over the last company? I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 214, Chase and Kill. Hi. Su Xingxin looked up immediately, how much? Good girl, you didn't even ask about the job details. But it shows that she really lacks money. How much was your salary as a civil servant before? 10,000. Tell me the truth, I'm not recruiting. 8,000, 8,000 after tax and insurance, you'll get 6,000, 7,000. Left and right. Su Xingxin rubbed her hands in embarrassment. Okay, I'll give you double the reward, come to our company to work. Chu Yao sat down leisurely. You don't have to do much, and there might be times when you need to use measuring instruments in the future. It's also convenient for me to have a professional for you. Since Shen Yu didn't care about these former subordinates, can I just hide in a corner? Su Xingxin gasped, her heart was pounding. The moon stopped beating, and she tremblingly held Chu Yao's hand. Mr. Chu, you are my noble. From today onwards, Xingxin will be yours. It goes without saying. That's too bad. Wait a minute, I'll send a flying letter to our vice president, and you can contact her later. Su Xingxin stood up in a military stance. Anytime, anywhere, Detective Xingxin will handle the case for you. Hiss, why does it seem like another small fire character has been selected? Chu Yao was still complaining in her heart, but Su Xingxin's eyes were already filled with tears. What opportunity? This is an opportunity. Just as she was about to say something more to express her gratitude, a team member's voice came from not far away. Captain. There's a situation on the west side. The two looked at each other and rushed over there. About 100 meters away from the hotel, a young team member was sweeping the sidewalk with a measuring device on his back, and the screen on his backpack flickered. The Chinook value is about 12% of the second level. Not only has it not decreased, but there are also more signals. The young man reported to Su Xingxin. President Chu, what should we do next? Su Xingxin quickly changed his mind. Hearing Xingxin's words, the young man looked a little puzzled and looked between the two of them. Su Xingxin pressed the young man's face together and whispered. The young man was shocked, and when he looked at Chu Yao again, he already smiled flatteringly. As expected. Chu Yao's mind spun rapidly. The nameless monk really showed his feet when he left. 12% second floor. Another one is a foundation building monk? Chu Yao couldn't help but look at the Chinook meter behind the young man. This thing is really easy to use. It seems that it is suitable to accept them into the company, as long as they don't let them touch the main secret. Search this way until you find no traces. Following Chu Yao's order, they started heading towards the west of the hotel. The sun was slowly setting, and the group of people left dark shadows all over the area as the sun set. They walked for almost a block, and at a location about 3 kilometers away from the hotel, the spiritual fluctuation finally dissipated, and no matter how hard they searched, they could not find any traces. There were no buildings nearby, only a multi-purpose gas station not far away. Chu Yao's spiritual sense did not even leave the ground, but she still could not find a place to hide nearby. The thread seemed to stop here. If you want to find someone, Su Xingxin interjected, perhaps you can check the surveillance video of the gas station, but the gas station here is considered an Iron Dome industry. I wonder if the people inside agree. Su Xingxin's advice reminded Chu Yao that this was the only way to do things right now. As for whether the people inside agree or not, then you have to agree if you don't. Every minute passed. If there was no clue today, the intelligence would only become more and more dangerous. Chu Yao had prepared for the worst in her heart, but it was not time to give up easily. You guys go back first, Xiaoran's Fidion letter has been sent to you. Just listen to her when there's a report. Okay, Mr. Chu, I understand Mr. Chu. Su Xingxin nodded and left with the group of people here. After they left, Chu Yao walked straight to the gas station. With a sweep of his mind, he found the location of the monitoring room, and after using a little trickery, he arrived at a screen that covered the wall without any sound. Under the control of Chu Yao's illusion, the security uncle in the monitoring room played a video of the day Kiasi disappeared. The reading speed of the Jindan cultivator's spiritual consciousness was several times faster than that of an ordinary person. Chu Yao didn't need to slow down to see the entire situation that night. A grey van caught her attention. The car was parked on the side of the road opposite the gas station, inconspicuous because there were no lights nearby. At 9:20 in the evening, she noticed a group of people coming from afar, some of them still carrying sacks on their shoulders, crowding into the van and driving away. Not one person, but a group of people? The distance was quite far, and the license plate was not clear, but it didn't bother her. Chu Yao intercepted the video and sent it to Xiao Hua. "Help me check the address of this car 2 days ago, hurry up. You really found me a job, your big shiny one. I can't find the tumor seller, yet. I'll pay for next month's pocket money." "Only next month? Only 2 months, don't be so impatient, hurry up and go." "Okay." Su Hua happily replied. Xiao Hua's computer and network technology had been honed to a terrifying level, and with Mao's help, it was enough to find the car. In less than 20 minutes, a map showing the car's route was sent to Chu Yao's phone. The last parking spot should be on the outskirts of Unyielding City, north of Liberty City. This van can really drive, and it has almost crossed half of the third continent. Do you need any other help? Can you confirm the specific parking spot? It's quite difficult. That's the suburbs, and there are quite a few monitors. I was still able to hack into the dash cams of some cars on the same road. But it will take some time. I understand. Thank you. Don't be. Thank you. Don't forget my snacks. The conversation between the two ended with an emoji sent by Xiao Hua. Chu Yao retreated from the gas station without seeing anyone, put the motorcycle in the storage bag, and jumped on. She didn't want to waste time. It was getting dark, and the night was covering the city. She used a secret method to conceal her flying aura, and turned into a black shadow under the cover of darkness, riding her horse back and forth between the tall buildings. Compared to the Foundation building, the current escape speed was not as natural as it used to be. Chu Yao didn't follow. The flight path, however, was a straight line in the sky, and turned slightly when encountering obstacles, which shortened her travel time by several %. A familiar building appeared again, it was the Statue of Heaven and Man. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 215 Mustache? Chu Yao followed the instructions on the map, crossed the Statue of Heaven and Man, and finally saw a van at the gate of an abandoned factory on the north side of Liberty City. The factory that I didn't know what it was made of was large in area, because it was located on the outskirts of the city, so there were not many people visiting. She didn't act rashly, but used her spiritual sense to scan the outer circle to observe the nearby terrain. There were walls on all sides, the north and south doors were locked, and small warehouses surrounded the main factory in the middle of the wall. While Chu Yao was thinking, the small door of the security room next to the main door was pushed open with a small crack, and a group of people walked out from inside with gloomy faces. The group of 9 people, all men in their 20s and 30s, only one had a cultivation base, and the rest were ordinary people. The cultivator's cultivation level fluctuated up and down, it was probably the Foundation establishment stage, and it was similar to when Chu Yao first met the mad scientist Lian Jining. When did the cultivators on Ling Yuan Star start to rot? Chu Yao couldn't figure out where this person came from. But even if she met someone like Lian Jining who had rebuilt again, she wasn't afraid now. The gap between Zhu Ji and Jin Dan wasn't small. Don't be afraid of snakes, don't hit the kids, the old man is coming. When the group drove away again, Chu Yao's spiritual consciousness swept across the factory lightly, and there was no sign of mana fluctuation. However, she found traces of living people, and several auras came from underground. In the blink of an eye, Chu Yao hid her body, and arrived at the basement of the factory in a few moments. The small secret room was cold and damp, and there was a smell of rotten metal in the air. In the narrow, unlit space, 8 people were tied up against the wall, their hands were chained, and they fell asleep there, breathing like a spider web. Chu Yao saw Hikiasi for a moment, her clothes were dirty and she was leaning against the wall with her eyes closed. There was a young woman lying beside her, she looked very familiar to Chu Yao, but she couldn't remember where she had seen her before. The other 6 were men and women, and Chu Yao remembered several people who were on the missing persons list. There were no wounds on their bodies, and the reason why they were weak might be due to hunger. After confirming that several people were stable at the moment, Chu Yao walked through the main door of the room. She decided to check for any potential dangers first. She finally went around the factory a few times, but there was nothing special about it. Except for these poor people who were tied up, there was no sign of anyone still alive. An ordinary waste factory. Am I thinking too much? Then why did these people take so much effort to arrest people? Chu Yao, who thought that he had discovered a terrifying conspiracy, felt a little confused. Just as she was about to save a few people, there was an unexpected sound in the room she had just entered. Chu Yao was shocked and returned to the room with a shout, only to see a shocking sight. The octopus tentacles pierced out from the wall near the roof vent, looking like a big fat snake with dark and hard skin, and making a grinding sound between the pipes when it moved. As soon as this appeared, the sleepy people instantly woke up, their eyes filled with fear. The girl beside Hikioxi let out a heart-wrenching scream. In the next moment, this tentacle wrapped around a man's body, dragging him back with a thrashing motion, and his desperate cries echoed for a long time. I'm so awesome, what is this? Chu Yao was shocked, and it was no wonder that she didn't notice that this thing had no fluctuations in spiritual energy at all. Not only that, under Chu Yao's consciousness, this tentacle monster was obviously a dead thing, devoid of the breath of life. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, you would never have noticed that there was a monster hiding in the factory. What was this? A mutant Zerg? Kidnapping people here just to feed them? Although she had arrived in Jindan, she was still very cautious when encountering this unknown existence, because she couldn't judge the specific strength of this thing. It wasn't suitable to stay here for a long time. It was best to save people first and then explore. As for what kind of monster that is, find a chance to capture and ask them. Chu Yao released the 20 Xionin No. 4 units in her storage bag, each of them armed, and were aware of their surroundings. In order not to scare Qiaoxi and the others, she chose to break through the door, which shocked them once again. Xiao Yu. After seeing the appearance of the person who came, Qiaoxi shouted in surprise. Chu Yao took out an iron knife, and cut off the chains of many people with 3 slashes and 5 strikes. Let's go, retreat first. Chu Yao stuffed a double-barreled shotgun into Qiaoxi's hand while staring fiercely at the vent. The monster whose whereabouts it was hiding seemed to have discovered movement here. The ground began to shake, and inexplicable howls echoed throughout. The large black tentacles appeared again. They wrapped around Chu Yao's body at an extremely high speed. She was about to be dragged in. You've met the wrong opponent. Chu Yao turned her wrist. And the hilt of the sword appeared in her hand. Under the stimulation of spiritual power, a golden light shone. This was the first time she had activated this psychic lightsaber after she was promoted to Core Weaver. N-word. Drink. Jiao shouted, and slashed the lightsaber in her hand hard. The outer skin hardened into a gap, the entire tentacle twitched and shook rapidly due to the pain. Chu Yao's eyes froze. It didn't stop. The tentacle became more ferocious after being stimulated, and the part extending from the pipe continued to grow, as if it would never end, covering Chu Yao's body again. When her feet were free, they were pulled by the tentacle. You guys go first, let me go. Xiao Yet. Hikioxi cried out in pain, wait, I will definitely help you. This was the last sentence Chu Yao heard, and then she was swallowed by its tentacle. He ran fiercely in the pipe, only the sound of the wind whistling in his ears. In fact, she still had many tricks to use, but since the other party had started attacking, she wanted to see where this monster would take her. Having been stuck in the pipe for so long, a bright light finally appeared before his eyes. Chu Yao judged that this place was a spacious basement. The tentacle's body was within reach, pulling Chu Yao to pull it into her body. She silently chanted a formula and instantly turned into a foot-long snake, flying out of the tentacle's shackles. When she sat down, Chu Yao returned to her original body, and finally saw the original appearance of this thing clearly. Those terrifying tentacles were piled up into a lump, twisting like a huge mud ball, and on one side was the shape of an operating table. The huge facility was wriggling non-stop, emitting a bloody and fishy smell. As if sensing that the prey in his hands was out of trouble, the tentacle monster let out a world-shaking roar. Oh! What are you shouting about? Louder than anyone else. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 216 Dr. Chu Yao's shout seemed to be louder than the monster's movements, and she was stunned by the shout, and her body wriggling slowed down. She pulled out the Zhuang sword and started looking around. In addition to the table under the monster's tentacle, there were invisible musical instruments around, and it seemed that they were still connected to electricity. The ground was covered in blood and bone fragments, which was the source of the bloody smell. After looking around, Chu Yao found that there was no door to this haunted place. This place was weird. The tentacle monster seemed to have poor eyesight, and it took a long time before he realized that there was another person in front of him, roaring in anger and waving all the tentacles at Chu Yao. Chu Yao stimulated the protection of her spiritual body, took back the lightsaber, and added a whip in her hand, which was a mid-level magical weapon obtained from the Yuxuanzong secret realm before. Under the stimulation of the spiritual power, a layer of fiery red fire ignited on the magical whip, and it fought against countless tentacles under her swing. Blazing flames danced in midair, but these black tentacles seemed to be unafraid of the flames, and rushed towards Chu Yao's body through a sea of flames. Mid-level magical weapons are useless? Chu Yao's body turned into a cloud of ghostly mist, dodging left and right amidst the rain of tentacle attacks, and after withdrawing the whip, she also summoned another magical weapon to hold in her hand. With Zhuang in her left hand and a wooden fan in her right hand, they attacked the tentacles with incomparable momentum. Suddenly, purple clouds shot out, gusts of wind, and spiritual waves shot into the sky. Under Zhuang's sharp sword and the turbulent storm, these tentacles were finally unable to hold on, and turned into disgusting pieces of meat and fell all over the ground. Fortunately, it didn't seem as difficult as it seemed. The tentacle monster started to groan after being seriously injured, and stopped attacking, but curled up into a ball on the stage. Chu Yao also noticed something strange. The reason why this thing stopped in place and only attacked with its tentacles seemed to be because the main body was pinned to the table. It's just that the meat on its body was too thick, blocking the chains underneath. This thing was locked here. Chu Yao didn't relax her vigilance because of the retreat, but decided to take a big step to completely solve this hidden danger. With the experience of fighting Lian Jining before, she didn't want to experience entering the second stage again. The only problem was that in her eyes, that thing was still dead. But its aim was right in the middle. Chu Yao put away the magic weapon, used a tactic with her left hand, and dragged it back with her right hand, deciding to let the tentacle monster move ferociously. Spiritual figures continuously emerged from the surrounding walls and ground, merging with her purple spirit energy on her right arm, instantly turning into a terrifying giant hand. The pointed armor on the giant hand was sharp, and there was a black smoke hidden in the palm. This technique was called the Huamo palm, not a method in the nether art, but a remnant of the demonic method that Chu Yao had obtained outside the sect, and it was suitable for Jindan monks. After her refinement, the power of this move was not ordinary, comparable to a high-level magic weapon. It was just that the preparation time was longer than Ni Gaiman's, so the combat skill was not used very often. Don't hit me, I'll hit you. It didn't take long for the Huamo palm to be ready to take off. Chu Yao waved his hand, and the giant black palm roared towards the tentacle monster's position, as if dark clouds were hitting the top and a strong wind was blowing. Just as the giant palm was about to strike the tentacle monster, Chu Yao's movements suddenly stopped, and it seemed that an invisible force was blocking the two. Suddenly, a dark blue oval appeared above the tentacle monster's head, resembling a black hole surrounded by stars. It was obvious that this was not a black hole, but a strange force from the aura pushed the giant hand away, preventing Chu Yao from moving forward. What was this? Chu Yao gritted her silver teeth and slapped hard at her heart. Both the giant palm and the black hole shattered in midair, turning into fragments of spiritual energy scattered throughout the sky. The same aura standing on the ground appeared at the side of the tentacle monster, and under Chu Yao's gaze, a figure came out of it. The executive was careless, a little mouse came in. This was a tall man with white hair and a shawl, a thin shirt, and a large white robe, and his tone was filled with arrogance and indifference. As he walked out of the aura, he was still wearing a mask, and under Chu Yao's slightly surprised gaze, the mask actually merged with his face. She saw a slanted test tube drawn on the mask. Meow, why am I messing with these guys again? It's not good to encounter these masked people. It seems that they are not just ordinary mice. Are you from the Bloody Alliance? Chu Yao summoned the Zhuang sword in his hand, ready to use it. The man was taken aback when he heard those words. And looked a little surprised. You really know a lot. Chu Yao didn't hide her face. She didn't expect to meet people from the Bloody Alliance here. Let's briefly introduce ourselves. You can call me Dr. Mr. Chu Yat. The doctor pressed his chest with one hand and bowed gracefully. Chu Yao narrowed his eyes. It's no wonder she's so well known. After all, she was considered a small internet celebrity. But the other party's words obviously had another meaning. It's just that I didn't expect Miss Chu to come to my door before I invited you. The doctor's tone was very calm. Your progress is very fast. I wonder if Miss Chu is willing to be my 14th test subject. I don't understand what you mean. The sword in Chu Yao's hand was pointed at him. You'll understand soon. The doctor's laughter was very strange, as if something was stuck in his throat. While smiling, he reached out to the tentacle monster beside him. The monster looked quite afraid of him and hugged him tightly. The doctor pinched the large tentacle with his hand and lifted it hard. And the monster's original appearance appeared to Chu Yao. This is... Chu Yao's eyes froze. Chu Yao saw a familiar face on the twisted flesh at the tip of the tentacle. That was a doll. The doll at this moment had only one face left, its eyes unfocused and lifeless, and it did not feel any trace of life. Chu Yao immediately explained the cause and effect, and understood why the other party knew her. The baby did not die. No, it did not die by his own hands. You should be an old friend, right? The doctor lifted the layer of flesh and threw it away. He took out a can of alcohol from nowhere and held it in his palm. Before the transformation, her mind was filled with your name, Mr. Chu. This passion for revenge is truly admirable. Unfortunately, a level 2 psyker is not enough to complete the experiment. The doctor's face slowly turned. Find Chu Yao. But the level 3 should be different. Don't worry. As number 14, I am confident that I can maintain Miss Chu's sanity. Take me to do the experiment, you bloodthirsty bastard. Chu Yao's spiritual power surged, the bullet rang out, and the Zhuang sword exploded into thin air. She had to do it first, because this doctor was also a golden core cultivator. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 217 Suppression. The doctor spoke coldly and placed his left hand on his chest. A blue-black spiritual power appeared on his palm, and a black hole aura emerged again, protecting him in front of him. Chu Yao had never seen such a spell before. It was neither good nor evil, nor heretical, and it was not included in the 5 elements, which made it difficult to understand. There is still a spiritual weapon. It seems that you are a fish that slipped through the net of some cultivation civilization. It seemed that the doctor had a plan in mind. And he still had time to talk to Chu Yao. But when the purple light was about to hit the black hole, it suddenly dispersed into dozens of black ghosts, spinning rapidly in midair, turning into sharp black daggers, penetrating the black hole and directly hitting the doctor's body. At the same time, Chu Yao stomped her right foot fiercely, waves of earth and rocks began to roll on the ground, and the ground kept bulging and cracking, making it impossible for the doctor to stand still. The real Zhuang sword had been prepared in the sky. If it did not move, it would move like thunder from the sky, sending shock waves from the sky. The attacks from 3 directions came at the same time, and the doctor's trembling body was slightly embarrassed, as if there was no way to retreat. But suddenly, his body lit up, the blood vessels under his skin seemed to glow, the familiar aura appeared again, the figure disappeared with the spot and appeared on the other side of the room. The doctor's chest heaved up and down, and he panted non-stop. It seemed that this move had cost him a lot. Are you fighting and talking? Compared to him, Chu Yao seemed to be able to do it easily. Jian Guang and Ghost Shadow turned a corner in the air and flew towards him again. With a wave of her right hand, dozens of soul-sucking knives condensed into countless arrows together with the previous souls, and the arrows howled like the wind. If it was said that the Foundation establishment stage could only exert 20% of Chu Yao's full strength, she could reach almost 50% after recovering at Jindan. Those demonic arrows did not stop after falling beside the doctor, but turned into all sorts of strange things and slashed at him. Swords, spears, halberds, axes, hooks, and forks, some even turned into hanging ghosts, their tongues wrapped around their necks. What is the ghost law? Just the word deceit. Betrayal and change, thousands of unpredictable attacks, killing eyes, this is the essence of ghosts and Dao. Chu's ballad in the Jindan era has every move like the Yuanying of the past. The doctor's body is even more troubled, and he quickly dealt with it. There are wounds on his body, and his white coat is also tattered. He dodged left and right under all kinds of attacks, occasionally summoning the black hole defense, but the black hole is very small, and it only takes 4 or 5 soul-sucking knives to completely break it. Then who is this mouse? The old god Chu Yao stood there with his arms crossed, floating in midair and looking down, like a full-fledged villain. At the same time, she saw the strangeness in the doctor's cultivation. This person is not a true golden elixir, at least not like the golden elixir that survived the calamity of the thunder. His mana seems to come from the strange spirit blood flowing throughout his body. Ability. As for the strange spell, it may be because of this strange blood. At this moment, the doctor was cornered. And after subduing the ghost with the black hole in his hand, he roared towards the baby, number 13. The attack began under the command. The thin tentacles twisted and attacked Chu Yao. Humph, I have been on guard against you for a long time. Chu Yao stared at the tentacle monster for a long time and took out a wooden fan from his storage bag calmly. Under the strong wind, some of the remaining tentacles were broken into pieces all over the sky. While she was protecting the tentacles, the doctor found a flaw. He used all his spiritual power to teleport to Chu Yao's side immediately, and took out a delicate tool in the form of a round mirror in his hand. As soon as she saw this, Chu Yao's hair stood on end, and she felt a sense of danger that made her breathless. But she did not panic, and facing the unknown weapon in the opponent's hand, she revealed her signature terrifying smile. The doctor did not understand what she was laughing at, but he used the weapon in his hand with all his might, and a conical blue beam of light instantly enveloped Chu Yao. However, at the same time as the beam shot out, Chu Yao in front of him turned into a group of ghosts and dissipated. What? The doctor felt inexplicably surprised. Did you underestimate me? Chu Yao's voice came from behind him. And the spiritual power turned into intricate lines on his palm, and purple light shone. Netherworld palm. With a faint shout, a terrifying spiritual power slammed into the doctor's back like an overwhelming force, and the terrifying power that penetrated deep into his bone marrow raged throughout his body. The doctor's body trembled, and blood spurted out from his mouth. He was thrown dozens of meters away like a kite with a broken string, and violently hit the wall, causing gravel to fly. At the same time, the weapon in his hand also flew out. Chu Yao reached out to hook it, and took it into his hand. How could he not take advantage of the victory to pursue a successful move? Xiao Ziai! Hey! A group of black and purple lights shot out from his body, carrying waves of cold energy, and rushed towards the doctor. It was about to explode for the final time. This battle was very fast, and Chu Yao suppressed and fought the time tube, and the opponent had no room to counterattack. How could a nascent soul cultivator's combat experience be compared to a fake alchemist who had become a priest halfway through? Just as Xiao Ziai was about to reach the doctor's door, Chu Yao felt something was wrong. Suddenly, several crystal strands appeared in the air, extending from all directions, forming a large net in front of the doctor. If it weren't for Chu Yao's spiritual sense constantly paying attention, there would be no way they would have found it. With her thoughts, Xiao Ziai quickly turned around and walked around Chu Yao. My friend has been watching the fight for a long time, why didn't you show up? Chu Yao said quietly. As soon as she finished speaking, a figure appeared between the two. Unlike when the doctor appeared, his manner was calm as if he had appeared out of nowhere. This person was dressed in a neat suit and wore a mask, with his large hands pulling puppets with silk threads. Referring to Chu Dao's friend. The man spread his hands and 5 fingers, and the silk threads were at his fingertips. Report your name. Chu Yao placed her arms around her chest. It seemed relaxed, but it was actually staring cautiously at the sudden visitor. She noticed the words in the other party's mouth and didn't know what he meant. Blood Alliance B's leader, executioner, you can call me Puppet Master. The Puppet Master nodded slightly to Chu Yao, then glanced at the doctor lightly. Doctor has been properly punished. Deist Chu, are you willing to face me and stop now? There is no enmity between us. Chu Yao, I really want to complain, who are you? Why do you call me Deist? Chu Yao asked back. Monks, if you don't call me comrade, what do you call me? The Puppet Master spoke and stopped, but the silk thread in his hand did not return. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 218, Qian Xian. If I stop according to the Puppet Master's words, I will lose face. Chu Yao played with the small mirror she snatched from the doctor. This Puppet Master was also a golden core cultivator. This bloody alliance was more than just an assassin organization. This doctor of yours brought my friend to feed his experimental products. Chu Yao lightly tossed the weapon in his hand. If I'm late, my friend might die. Human life is a matter of heaven. Talk less, stop, just want to fix it. What do you want? The Puppet Master didn't look relaxed, and the way Chu Yao used just now shocked him. These experiments were all done by him himself, and they had nothing to do with the Bloody Alliance. Why do you have so many monks under your Blood Alliance and what are you doing behind the scenes? Chu Yao changed his hand and continued to toss. Your answer, if I am satisfied, then it is impossible to let him go. Oh. The Puppet Master looked a little surprised. If that is the case, even if fellow Deist Chu does not ask, I will tell the truth. As a golden core cultivator, fellow Chu Dao naturally has the right to know about this. What do you mean? Judging from the Puppet Master's appearance, it seemed that he had already prepared his stomach, so let's see what kind of medicine he sells in his gourd. Don't wait, do you really think I am afraid of you too? The Puppet Master naturally heard the threat in Chu Yao's words. He pondered for a moment and finally said, I don't know if fellow Deist Chu can see heaven and man. Thank you, look with your naked eyes. Chu Yao did not understand why he asked this question inexplicably. But she still followed his words. Heavenly man is just his own name. However, he is still a family of humans. Yes, they are a group of humans. The voice gradually sounded. But that group of humans always suppress us cultivators. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Chu Yao didn't speak. She started to guess what the puppet master wanted to say next. Obviously, they have such advanced and developed technology and weapons, but they are eyeing the clashes of civilians, killing each other, and have no intention of making progress. The puppet master raised his hand and pulled them back, but the large net made of silk pulled out did not disappear. The alliance between heaven and man has been established for more than 2,000 years, and the flames of war have never stopped. Today's Star Wars is just another silly scene. Fellow Deist Chu, do you know why the second galaxy occupied by celestial beings is called Xi'an? I don't know. Chu Yao replied softly. The so-called Xi'an is just a misunderstanding. Its real name is Immortal Death. Chu Yao was shocked. Yi Xian, dead immortal, that's what it is. After knowing its real name, Deist Chu must have guessed something about the truth. These greedy humans wanted the power of the time tube cultivators, but were afraid of our strength. They stole the Xian family's technology. However, they will seek revenge, forget their duty, do all kinds of evil, and kill all the monks. When he said these words, the puppet master seemed to intentionally or unintentionally look at the dying doctor beside the wall. Once upon a time, the Immortal Death Galaxy had its own name, but now it has become a graveyard for cultivators. Chu Yao pondered, and seemed to hear a different history from his mouth. But what these arrogant humans didn't expect was that there were still monks who survived the chaos. The Blood Alliance was formed by such a pitiful group of people. The land will grow and develop to counterattack one day and re-establish our Supreme Immortal Realm. Supreme Immortal Realm. Chu Yao frowned upon hearing this. That's right. How could these self-important heavenly gods step on the heads of cultivators? We should be the masters of this universe. The puppet master's mood seemed to become more and more chaotic, in contrast to the calmness of him right now, with a sense of deception in his words. The Bloodline Alliance has maintained a lowly status for thousands of years, and it finally has a chance. The plague is raging and civil wars are frequent, and the Heaven and Man Alliance has no time to care about this. Now is the time for us to revive again. He extended his hand to Chu Yao as he spoke. Chu Daiyu is a smart person. We are both monks, so we must also feel the persecution of heaven and man. Why don't you choose to join us? With fellow Deists' abilities, we will be able to reach the same level as me in a short time. Even higher. As for the soul lock matrix in your hand, how can it be considered a gift from me? And turned away from the monster that was crouching at the head of the table. After a long discussion, it turned out that they wanted to pull me into the game. The puppet betrayed the organization, and this is the karma you deserve. The puppet master shook his head. The precepts cannot be violated. These are the rules set by the master. Who is the Lord? I have said enough, Deist Chu. The puppet master paused. As for other things, you will naturally understand them once you join the True Blood Alliance. You said that monks were killed by heaven and man. This. No, it doesn't seem to be the same as what I know, so I can't understand it. No matter what the puppet master said, it was just his one-sided words, and Chu Yao naturally didn't believe it. You're talking about slaves? Of course it was the result of the activities of the members of the Blood Alliance. If possible, we want to save more people from the clutches of those big companies. It's great to keep them alive now. Oh. It seems that I have heard some amazing inside stories. It seems that the hacking of the Blood Hacker Alliance in the Heaven and Man Society is really widespread. When Chu Yao rolled his eyes, she had already made a calculation in her mind. Of course, it would be great if there was one more backer. I can join your Blood Alliance, but there is one condition. What do you think? Kill him, I will join. Chu Yao raised her chin. Wei. Doctor. The puppet master fell silent for a long time, as if weighing the pros and cons. Puppet, you can't. The doctor's voice was hoarse, the light on his skin flickered up and down, and he was still struggling. Slap. The silver puppeteer's hooked finger also broke out, and a neat gap appeared on the doctor's neck. Blood gushed out, and the doctor's head rolled to the ground in front of Chu Yao. Chu Yao narrowed her eyes, she was a puppeteer decisively without hesitation. Her vigilance towards this person increased by another level. This big gift, Deist Chu, are you satisfied? Of course you are. Chu Yao said so, but she suddenly stretched out her arm towards the puppet master, and her finger was already on the button of the soul lock matrix. However, I regret it. Chu Yao smiled brightly. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 219, Killing All. The puppeteer reacted very quickly and jumped back, avoiding the range of the soul lock matrix. Are you fooling me? He shouted angrily. He originally thought that Chu Yao was a mature and prudent foreign monk. And he would never do such a thing by turning his face and denying his account, but he didn't expect her to be such a funny person. Little brat, today I will teach you a lesson. Chu Yao sneered and chopped the zhuang in his hand. If you think that all the monks in the world are family members, you are wrong. The puppet master opened his right hand, swept in front of his body, a bright silver thread flickered in front of his body, it violently clashed with the zhuang sword, and the sound of impact was heard. It was unknown what kind of magic weapon the silk was so tough. I am the second-class leader, if you dare to fight me, you will be hunted down by the Blood Alliance. As long as you all die here, no one will know that I did it. Chu Yao smiled slightly, and she started from the beginning, I did not intend to accept his invitation. The reason I talked to him for so long was just to confirm one thing, whether the identity of Blood Butterfly was exposed. If so, it means that the Blood Alliance's intelligence network has reached an outrageous level. For the safety of everyone in the company, she might choose to compromise. But according to the doctor and the puppeteer, it was assumed that she was targeted because she had done something to the puppet before. The facts proved that the Bloody Alliance did not reach the point of covering the sky with one hand, at least not to the Ling Yuan star. It was easy to say. Chu Yao's only goal was to get out. For this purpose, she had to eliminate all possible dangers. She did not have time to create an imaginary paradise with these bloodthirsty people who regarded human life as nothing. This spring and autumn dream, you can do it yourself. As a golden core cultivator, are you so confident that you can overthrow me? The puppet master seemed to be in a hurry, and he was about to get serious. With a wave of his arm, 5 or 6 black shadows emerged from his body, turning into a group of life-sized mechanical puppets. These puppets had a metallic luster that flickered from top to bottom, and the sharp blades in their hands were fierce. Under the stimulation of the spiritual power, the eyes of these puppets shone with a terrifying red light, and they rushed towards Chu Yao at an extremely fast speed. Puppet? It has been a long time since such a genuine puppet technique. Chu Yao licked his lips. The technique in her hand changed, the spiritual technique was working in full force, and ghosts rushed in all directions, forming a wall of dark fog in front of her instantly, blocking the puppet's attacks. While temporarily holding the puppet, Chu Yao's formula changed again, his hand hooked the sky and the earth, the coldness rose in the basement, the dark wind blew, and the ghosts howled endlessly. Spiritual energy floated and condensed, and a huge ghost door with white bones emerged in front of him, countless ghost soldiers and spirits jumped out of the door with their fingers. These spirit soldiers were densely packed, and soon there were more than 100 of them, and each of their bodies was very strong and radiant. Only when this method reached the golden core level could it show its true terrifying power. The endless demon soldiers roared angrily, and the basement instantly turned into a living hell, and the tentacle monsters locked on the platform not far away shrank even a little. They broke through the wall of fog and devoured those puppets in an instant. Compared to the ghost army, these puppets were indeed too few. The puppeteer was still surrounded by these ghosts, but he remained calm, and the thin lines around him began to increase, turning into a circle around him to protect himself. He used the one-handed strategy and used other Dao techniques. Finally, 4 giant stone hands grew from the walls and roofs, slapping and grabbing Chu Yao, trying to crush her into powder. Puppet mechanism, Earth Dao system. Chu Yao muttered a few words, and with a thought, he changed positions with the ghost hanging not far away, and swung the giant hands into the air. She did not directly confront the puppet master, but hid among the ghosts, occasionally slashing with whips or flying knives to receive souls. This man might have a soul lock matrix with him, so be careful. Up until now, everything was under her control. Under Chu Yao's rhythm, the puppet master was in a difficult situation in dealing with the sky full of ghost soldiers and ghost generals and the occasional cold knife, and his heart was anxious. He had been watching her confrontation with the doctor just now, and ready for a fierce battle, but he didn't expect this person to be this strong. The puppet master also knew that the only way to resolve the impasse was to find Chu Xiao's body. But he couldn't find it. In his consciousness, Chu Yao's true body seemed to have turned into smoke, which was unusual among ghosts. His silk shield was in tatters and on the verge of breaking. He didn't want to fight any more now, and he started to think of a way out. After the soldiers, the cow-headed ghost cut through the gaps in his shield. The puppet master finally couldn't hold back any longer, and a mirror appeared in his hand. It was the soul lock matrix, but it was not much larger than the mirror in Chu Yao's hand. The moment the light cone appeared, the ghost in his palm disappeared without a trace, leaving a gap. The puppet master saw an opportunity and disappeared with a whoosh. Chu Yao's consciousness observed his actions in time. This person did not have the ability to teleport to the Yuanying level, but had a very special escape method. It was only because the escape method was so fast that it seemed to disappear into thin air. Now that you've made it, is there any reason for you to run away? The puppet master's body hit the ground in the next second, but what he didn't expect was that as soon as he appeared, a dozen small robots with live ammunition were waiting for him. The sound of gunfire rang out in the factory, mixed with the roar of cannons and several bombs. The puppet master summoned a protective aura of his body, so he wouldn't be shot to death here, but the blockade of the robot team slowed his escape, which was enough. There was a long howl behind him, and it seemed like he wanted to resist, but it was too late. The flying Zhuang sword turned into a bright light like purple gold lightning, piercing through his body like a broken bamboo. The puppeteer didn't even have time to cry out in pain, his internal organs were shattered by the huge impact, and his body fell to the ground with a thud, losing his human appearance. Not long after, Chu Yao appeared beside him, squatting down to search for something in the bloodstains. After searching for a long time, Chu Yao finally found a small bag soaked in blood. You guessed it right, this guy really did have a storage bag. She didn't think it was dirty, so she hung the puppeteer's storage bag on her waist and turned around to go back underground. Don't rush to look. There are still men who haven't been solved yet. The ghost soldiers in the basement were all still in place. Without Chu Yao's order, they had been resting on their feet, and their bodies began to fade away a lot, as if they would disappear soon. With a flick of Chu Yao's ponytail, the ghost bag that had been quiet for a long time floated into the air, the mouth of the bag opened wide, and a gust of wind blew out. Suck all the remaining ghost soldiers into it. That's right, it's very convenient. Her gaze turned to the last remaining enemy, the tentacle group. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 220 Sealing. With a single palm, the tentacle monster turned into an even worse clone. Chu Yao clapped her hands, relaxed. She searched the entire basement again, and even the doctor's body was not spared. It's a pity that he didn't have a storage bag. Just as Chu Yao was cleaning everything and wanted to go out, her footsteps stopped in the factory. No. That's too imprudent. Let's go the other way. She threw away all the small robots, turned into black shadows, and left the place in another direction. I said no entry, no entry. Although this place is abandoned, it is still the private territory of our Steel Dome Company. At this moment, the outside of the abandoned factory was already full of people. This group of people was divided into two parties. One party was the people from the Kingsha group led by Hikiasi, and the other party was the person in charge of the Iron Dome in this city area. This is also the private territory of your Iron Dome. I really want to laugh. Hikiasi placed his hands on his hips, his momentum was not inferior. Behind her, Kingsha's armed team of nearly 100 people, all armed with live ammunition, and even drove 2 armored vehicles. Since this is your Iron Dome territory, you admit that you kidnapped me? It's not enough for you Iron Dome and Yelai to fight, do you want to start a war with Kingshu and Bo Shui? What kind of kidnapping did you do? What did he say? I don't know, I'm just following orders. The man in front of Hikiasi wiped the sweat off his face. You don't know, then I'll tell you now. Hikiasi's voice got louder and louder. 3 days ago, someone kidnapped me here at the Zinki Hotel, and there are Zerg under this factory. You mentioned protecting the citizens, but you're still holding the Zerg here? Is Steel Vault using the post-war peace treaty as a show? The person in charge of Steel Vault continued to wipe his body. Sweat. When he received the news from the people below, he thought it was no big deal. So he didn't bring many people, but it turned out that things weren't as he thought. After seeing these Kingshu armed forces, his legs were wobbly. Judging from this Miss He's aggressive appearance, she was obviously here to settle accounts. Who was it? Who dared to do something so close to the unjust city? And happened to be in the city he was in charge of. The person in charge was crying in his heart. He had to catch the kidnappers. But he couldn't really express his inner thoughts. If things really went as Miss He said, the consequences would be dire. Mr. He, don't be so hasty. Can we wait for me to call the chief? The person in charge smiled flatteringly. If he let the situation get worse, he wouldn't be the one in charge, but the one in charge. No. Let me in. My friends are still inside. Hikiaxi looked anxious. She was really worried about Chu Yao's safety, so she pushed the person in charge in front of her and was about to charge in. How could the others from Steel Dome Company let her charge in? They went forward to stop them, but they were blocked by the Kingshu armed group again. And conflict seems inevitable. At the moment as the conflict escalated, Hikiaxi's cell phone vibrated. She took out her phone and looked at it, her eyes flashed with disbelief for a moment, then she returned to normal. Chu Yao sent a message. Kioxi, I'm fine, and I've left the factory now. The Zerg were also killed, but I left an excuse, keeping it a secret for me. The others also kept their mouths shut. Shut up, I'll explain it to you later. Thank you. Kioxi's face remained unchanged, and he waved his hand to signal the armed forces behind him to retreat. The person in charge breathed a sigh of relief, and it looked like a young woman, finally calming down. He finally had time to call his boss, his face turned blue and then white, and finally replied to Kioxi. Mr. He, Gangshan's security and search team will arrive soon, don't worry, we will definitely take action, take care of this matter. I will give you an explanation, we will not let any criminals who dare to cause panic in Zindu. The tone changed quickly, I will record what you just said, in any case, this matter has nothing to do with your Kyang Iron, can't escape. Kioxi also calmed down at this time. Looking at the person in charge with a nervous face, her mind was thinking about how to hit Steel Kyang hard. But Xiao Ye was really powerful. I heard that many people in the wasteland called her the queen, and it seemed to be true. The people from Steel Dome quickly arrived, and under the heavy digging of several automatic excavators, the entire factory was almost flattened and the ground was lifted. When they saw the huge Zerg corpse in the basement, no one in Steel Vault looked good. Speaking of which, even if it was really a young woman who had kidnapped the Qingsha branch, Gang Kyang would not be afraid of anything. Anything that could be settled with money was easy to say. But searching for Zerg near their core was different. The war against Yalai 3 years ago was premeditated, and there was a gap between the two sides before. Everyone knew about it, but Steel Dome did not want to go to war with all the companies in Kukai. If this matter were to spread, there would definitely be various rumors. And public opinion would affect many aspects. This made the Steel Dome leader stationed in Ling Yuanxing panic. He and Kioxi met briefly outside the factory. As for the profit that could be brought to Qingshu, it depended on the subsequent negotiations. The Zerg's corpse was split into two and handed over to both parties for safekeeping. As for the chaos that had occurred here, it was also covered by the Iron Dome. Zindu was as calm as ever. The citizens who were struggling to get enough food and clothing were running around the block, not knowing what had happened. Most of them had noticed that the factory was surrounded again, and they didn't know what project they were going to do. When Kioxi returned home safely, Mother He was overjoyed. She touched her daughter and cried, not to mention the deep love between mother and daughter. After the situation temporarily calmed down, Kioxi gathered several rescued people to join him in a room in the Qingsha company. There were a total of 5 people sitting around a square table. Kioxi sat at the head and placed a closed suitcase on the table. Mr. He, what's wrong with you? A man asked curiously. After a while, the victim's mood gradually calmed down and returned to normal. I am also a victim like you, and no one wants this to happen to them. But I still hope that everyone can keep this a secret, because this is not an ordinary kidnapping case. There are many things involved in this matter. 4 million, the 4 of you split the money. Kioxi opened the suitcase. Kioxi, you should trust me. I won't take your money. The girl Chu Yao knew before spoke. She sat down next to Kioxi. The two looked familiar. Kioxi pursed his lips and secretly winked at the girl, but the girl was still puzzled. The other 3 had different expressions, but they didn't look like they had let go of the money. In today's Zindu, everyone knew what $1,000,000 meant. When the man wanted to speak again, a strange scene occurred. Many people seemed to have stopped moving, and a purple light flashed before their eyes. Chu Yao's figure appeared beside Kioxi. Another roll is over. Please like and share. Thank you.